Hi.
Hey.
So nice to see you again.
For the first time in forever.
For the first time in forever. You guys, we've been having technical difficulties, but this is Mayday. Welcome. If you guys follow me on TikTok or if you're new here, this is going to be kind of a podcast style format where we talk about mysteries. It is not a true crime podcast. And it's kind of just a casual like hangout session. And this is Elena.
Hello, it's nice to meet everybody. Me and Rachel have been friends for 10 years now. Oh my god. So here we go.
We used to do, it's just nice to be on another spooky mission. We used to do spooky YouTube videos together. We used to go ghost hunting and things like that.
My favorite were the spooky stories. So I'm glad to be doing this type of like format again.
Yeah, I think we always like the stories better, you know, and I love true crime, but there's like a million true crime podcasts, and this is literally, and this is not just to put it out there that this is not going to be like that. It's going to be rabbit holes, deep dives, and of course it's named after Mayday. It's Mayday. Right now it's not going to be on podcast channels because we're just kind of two idiots. It's going to be a podcast format. Now, if you guys like it and it takes off and you like the fact like it's just going to be us like having snacks and talking about weird stuff the way we normally would. And if you guys like it, then we might, you know, get the nice microphones and make it an actual podcast and put it on podcast channels. But
wouldn't that be something?
That would be cool. I mean, I think it's possible.
I love the big like microphones. That's like,
yep.
I love those.
I'd feel a lot more serious if I had one of them in front of my face, I think. But
right.
So I thought it might be interesting because, okay, so me and Elena, I'm going to explain this real quick and then I'm going to ask you. Me and Elena used to do these videos together. I started them and I would just tell stories very similar to the ones I tell on TikTok, if you follow me there, about all kinds of different things. And I told one about the Mayday Mystery. Now, me and Elena, we always just did the ghost hunting, or we did like creepypasta readings and things like that. So Elena knows about the Mayday Mystery. I feel like everything she knows is against her will.
Yeah.
But so I thought it'd be interesting first, before I ramble about what it is exactly. What is your understanding of what the Mayday Mystery is?
Okay, so from a very like just outsider looking in, from what you've told me, what you've shared, from what I understand, it's puzzles and like clues and mysteries that are submitted into a newspaper in Arizona, and people rack their brains trying to crack these codes and figure out what it all means. And there's all kinds of different theories on whether it's like a religious thing or
I think it definitely is a religious thing.
Right, a religious thing. There's also stuff about it being tied to Freemasonry, and all these people are connected, and there's a big organization behind it called the Orphanage, and they're all super secretive, secret society type of thing. And the looking at the puzzles and stuff that I've seen, I have no idea what any of them actually mean or all that. But
more embarrassingly, I have no idea what they mean. And it's worse that I have no idea what they mean because I've been reading over them for 3 years now.
3 years. This has been a 3-year long like endeavor of like research and rabbit hole.
And I'll say this just to prove that I'm a lost cause for maybe ever solving it. Bob literally, and I'm getting ahead of myself, I'm about to explain the whole thing from start to end, so stay with us. Bob literally today told me to not compare myself to other people who got close because I'm very aesthetic. Oh, they were a different type of person, but you're really aesthetic. I was like,
they were actually smart.
I was like, is Bob telling me I should be seen and not heard? Like, what's going on? Um, okay, so that was a lot. And that's how I know that Elena's my friend that pays attention to what I say. Because there are many people who would not care even that much. Because it's very dense and it's a lot, but it sticks with me because it was the only thing that I ever talked about or we ever talked about that talked back to us and talked.
At a point like that, your videos on YouTube, that was like the biggest one, and that got you attention from the actual thing that you were talking about, which was like
Yes. You know that saying, like, sometimes when you stare into the abyss, it'll stare back at you. That the Mayday Mystery stared back into me, and I can't even casually tell people about it, because if I casually tell people about the Mayday Mystery, then I really think they genuinely think that I'm making things up or there's something wrong with me. Now, people that know me, I almost didn't talk about it on TikTok, because when I started to talk about it, I was like, will these people really be concerned? Like, are they going to think I'm lying, which a couple have, but not many, or are they going to be concerned? So okay, I feel like I've been doing this for a while. Let me explain top down.
Yeah.
And then if you are familiar with this part of the overview, there are updates. Let me swallow my food because some people hate that, but I said I really want. You're
I'm into it.
I just want this to genuinely be a chill vibe, because, not to get sidetracked, swear I'm not going to too much. TikTok's stressful. I love so many people I've met there, but TikTok is stressful. And just, I feel like you have to get everything done really quick. It's 60 seconds. Here's the story. Here it is. And then people are really easily upset by very small things. But okay, the Mayday Mystery. So 3 years ago, before you were doing YouTube with me, I had done just a couple by myself. And I did one before I was comfortable talking on camera at all. Like, when I look back on it, it's just me, and I'm like, now I'm gonna tell you guys a story about something called the Mayday Mystery. It's like that chick from Pitch Perfect, the one that, like, everything she says is really quiet. So I was very uncomfortable, and I was freaked out, because from what I had read about it, they sometimes contacted people, and also I had looked into their Facebook page, and there were, yeah. So I did this video, and this is the basic overview from that video. There was this student, his name's Brian Hantz, who I now kind of know. I think Brian's kind of done with talking to me. I don't know. He can let me know. There was this student named Brian Hantz at the University of Arizona. And in 1988, I believe in the 80s, he discovered weird and cryptic puzzles in Tucson's Arizona Daily Wildcat. Now, that's the student newspaper, like you said, at the University of Arizona. And I'll try to, like, include some of these in post. I don't know how much I'm going to edit, because we are being pandemic safe. But if you look at a Mayday Mystery puzzle, it's like an explosion of esoteric things.
It looks like a bunch of hoopla to me.
It looks like the Da Vinci Code threw up, pretty much, is what it looks like. So he, of course, was like, what in the world is this? Because it was in their student newspaper. And it basically, by looking into it, he opened up a can of worms. Well, the first thing he found out was that it cost $1,000 to place that full page ad, and that they had been placing those since the 1970s, right? Actually, wait, I think Brian went there in the 90s. Somebody can fact check me on that. He found them 288 and later was told they started in the 70s. Small correction. So he looked into, he's like, well, who places these? Surely that somebody at least has to know who places them. He started cataloging them in an analog format. And he found out who places them, and it was a local lawyer named Robert Hungerford, Robert Truman Hungerford. His full name's out there. This is not a doxing. There's a few interviews with Robert, but he doesn't like to be interviewed. So he found this guy, he met him, he asked him what was going on. If you read if you read the articles online, Bob has a very particular sense of humor. Like, he has doctorates in theology. I'm not even sure what all. He has multiple doctorates. I know one of them's in theology. And he had all these books and strange artifacts in his office. And when they interviewed him, he was like, I don't even know what these are. I picked them for their color. That's the kind of joke he'll make. It. He loves making an evasive joke. It's like his favorite thing. But that was pretty much the only lead was to Bob. All the references in the ads themselves are to, this organization called the Orphanage. Sometimes they call themselves the Unreconstructed Freaks. And Bob swore then and swears now that he is not the sole creator of the ads.
Which I do believe, by the way.
I do too now. I didn't. I used to be like, Bob's doing this. I thought he was making multiple accounts. Well, here's the weirdest thing, right? So this has been going on for a long time. Brian started cataloging all of these ads on his website. It's the maydaymystery.org. It still exists, but it looks like a website that was started in the 90s still. So he started cataloging all of this stuff on his website. And then people became really, really interested in the puzzle. And you can read the old forums and the old correspondence on the website about people where people are trying to hack it. So that's still there. It still looks very old. But now these people are still around. Like you're saying, you don't believe it's just, just Bob. I don't either, because it's weird how many of these people all of the orphanage members talk the same. And this is the part where I start to sound a little off. Okay. But it's true. If you're there, when I brought this to TikTok, which I was unsure about doing, they showed up again. So let me finish the YouTube part of the story. It's a lot to get through, but we can talk about updates and opinions and things, but let me get through. So first I brought it to YouTube and I was like, I noticed that the comments and the people in the Facebook group are a little funny. All the people kind of talk the same. This isn't like just a Facebook group of enthusiasts. These are dummy accounts with fake profile pictures that all look like the similar, like Freemason kind of stuff. And they all speak in this really cryptic way. Well, I posted that YouTube video. We had 50 subscribers, right? Not that, look, that's 50 human beings. I think everybody has to always remember that. So every time I see somebody pop up, that's a human being. Right now, I've got a decent following on TikTok. TikTok has a really forgiving algorithm. So even if 50 people watch us here, that's awesome. 50 people, 50 human beings. So, but we didn't have like a huge following. So about a week after I posted that video, I got a comment that has now become a phrase in my life that I've heard a lot, which is the day you see the door, you will be welcomed inside. My TikTok has all of the images, like the actual receipts and the screenshots. And I was like, okay, that's kind of like one of those weird comments I've been seeing on Facebook. And this person basically said, oh, your subconscious is rejecting the main theme of this puzzle. And I'm an idiot. I like to snap in rattlesnake pits. And I said, oh, you should email me. Are you an orphanage member? Like, I thought that was so cool.
Yeah.
And that person was called a child. And they did email me.
One of the people, the child or a child, something. Yeah.
A child. And he was really nice. Just to put it out there, the orphanage members are usually really nice.
They want you in.
I don't know if they want one in though. I don't know. And I'll get to that. I'm trying to go through the history, especially if somebody's here from TikTok because they've watched all these and they know all this already. But I've had so many weird interactions. I first had a child. They were very nice. They said, Bob would love to talk to you too. And that's Robert Hungerford, the man who places the ads. And so I said, okay. He says he's really friendly. There's no reason to be like afraid of the orphanage. So now I've been talking to Bob for years, and Bob is really nice. If it is a cult, they have targeted me successfully because Bob is really nice. I like him. He's really funny. He's always kind to me. He's always seems to be trying to look out for me. But what does make me uncomfortable about the orphanage is that they've been leaning on Brian Hance for 20 years now. When he would not post updates for a while because he was busy with his life, they would send him these really strange cryptic voicemails, and sometimes they were women doing it, which also proves it's not just Bob. But they would lean on him real heavily. They sent him mail that wasn't really threatening, but it was strange. They sent him ancient coins. a brain made out of chocolate, just strange things. But Brian's still alive, so that's I mean, so it's obviously
Right. They're not out
obviously
here killing
yeah, they're not super
and
murderers
just
or anything.
mysteriously disappear.
Now, I think a lot of people are interested. Is that basically it? I think that's basic. Oh, no. That's not basically it. Do you remember the weird people that messaged me that were opposition to the orphanage? You don't remember that?
Hold on just a second. You go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I was just saying I had gotten a really weird email from these people that said contact blank, and it was a woman's name, but I'm not going to say who because she asked me not to. And then they said, now forget I ever contacted you. By far the creepiest email I've ever gotten. And I kind of recognized the name, and I found the person in the Facebook group. And they were like, they immediately sent me a link to Robert Hungerford's PhD dissertation. Are we good? Are we having technical problems? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. And I read it, and my biggest takeaway from Hungerford's dissertation was that he was studying behavioral analysis in children for the way that they teach them about Protestantism, something called catechetics, right? That's like the indoctrination. I don't know exactly how you'd say it. I hope that's not offensive to anybody, but that's basically what it is. It's the introduction into all the principles and things like that. Well, Bob has all these different educational backgrounds. So he was studying with a psychologist how to make kids interested enough to learn the principles. And what he was doing in that dissertation was taking just a tiny bit of information and giving it to the child. And then the child would take it and want to know more about the subject. So my biggest, the thing that I think I've gotten right, and what has pretty much been confirmed to me by most people around this shady world, is that is what the Mayday Mystery really is. But I don't know what it means.
Think you said you said it made me think about him like talking about in children and stuff in his dissertation. Do you think that has a relation to that user being called a child?
Oh, and the orphanage.
Right, is a place for children.
Yeah.
That's a little too like similar to be a coincidence, I feel like. Because I never really thought about it that way until I heard you talking about his dissertation just now. Because you said a child again, and that kind of linked me back to what you just were talking about with that username.
Well, here's the thing about the MDM. It's easy to not, or it's hard not to go all over the map. Like I'm trying to stay focused in a linear fashion, but it's hard because there's so much. Just the name the orphanage, I've read multiple compelling theories. I've read there's a university tied to Bob that's on Orphanage Road, and that one was like a big one to me. Something local to him that's like, I believe it's that. This is a really out there thing I read on Reddit. I don't know if it's connected to any of this at all. This is real but somebody noticed that there was this reoccurring name, La Frontera Norta, which was a construction company that builds all the Freemason cathedrals and temples and things like that in Tucson, where they all live. They also built Bob's office, and they also built a university on Orphanage Road that apparently has been there for a very long time. Now, let's see. Oh, so the opposition, so they send me that dissertation and they say, we're probably the natural evolution of the MDM existing. They said we're what they would consider Pelagian devils. Now, I looked into Pelagianism. It's really dense stuff. It's basically somebody who follows the doctrine of Pelagius, somebody who denies Jesus's or God's love, and more of a radical free thinker type, I guess. But I said, so are you atheists? Like, because they're like, we're the counterbalance. And I'm like, so the main theme in the MDM, from what I've always seen, is Protestant Christianity. And so I thought, well, if you're the counterbalance, are you atheists? And the person called themselves Friendly Neighborhood Oracles. Or
Whatever
yeah.
that.
What does any of it mean? And then they told me to look at something called the Devil's Tower, and they said it was a puzzle. Now, the Devil's Tower is a location, like it's a famous location, West Virginia, maybe. I'd have to look that one up. But it's a famous location, but I couldn't find any evidence of it being related to the kind of puzzle that you'd see in a Mayday Mystery. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of like threads to tug at here. Well, I hadn't talked to Bob in a while, although every once in a while throughout the pandemic, he would check on me and be like, young lady. He calls me young lady. He calls me vigorous young person, sweet girl, dear girl. He'd say, young lady, are you feeling okay? Are you all right? So he would check on me, but then I made a video on TikTok and I was like, I'm going to tell you all about my weird accidental involvement in an actual, like a real life mystery. And it got a little bit of attention. And then the orphanage kind of started showing up in my comments on TikTok, like they are wont to do. Now, I think, but I'm not sure, that the whole thing about the dissertation and the behavioral modification is that they want people to try to solve the puzzle. I'm not even convinced there's a solving.
I don't think so.
I was like, what is your opinion on they say there's an ultimate prize? Do you think that's just religious talk? Because since there's this Protestant theme, like, is it death?
The prize is death. No, I think
Escaping
it's a
sweet
hook.
suffering.
I think it's a hook, like, because people naturally want to solve stuff. So I almost think it's like a hook to get people in, and then once you're in, then they like not force, but then they share their like true like nature now that they've got you in and got you interested. Like it's like a weird like recruiting system. It's kind of what I've been.
It is, but here's what drives me nuts and why I never leave Mayday, even when I like go on to look at other weird stuff, because I just like learning about weird stuff. Why I can never leave Mayday totally behind is, for one, it's just so weird that they've talked to me so ardently for so long, and for two, because there's something else. At first I was like, okay, they're religious, they want other people to be religious. That's common. Most people want to share their religion, whatever the religion is. They want people to find it and they think it's the way, you know. Right. And for a while I let it go. I was like, that's all it is, especially after the dissertation. But now I've started to think that the dissertation is the what, but it isn't the why. I think that there's perhaps still a message. Ooh, let me get one of those. I think there's still perhaps a message that I don't understand. Cheers. Because I'm trying to think of the best way to put this. There's definitely the theme of Protestantism, but there's really weird, like, they're handing me chicken nuggets, which is nice. Yes, feed me. So there's also a really weird okay, I know what people will want to hear about. I'm kind of scared to talk about it, but I think you'll think it's an interesting topic too. So there's this weird theme in the MDM of I'm trying to think of a way to say it that YouTube won't get mad about. The kind of recreational activities people would partake in this common at Woodstock in the 60s and 70s. Yeah, there's mentions of white rabbits all the time, following the white rabbit. And there are references to those kind of like rock and roll songs. Now, recently, Bob in emails was like really leaning on me to get a hold of something called the Repub Girl Correspondence. And all that means is that Repub Girl was a commentator on Brian's website. As I mentioned before, there were a lot of commentators, but they thought she had real promise. Okay. And I've been reading it the last few days. And to be honest with you, I couldn't figure out like what made her opinions so spectacular to them. But if you look, Brian even posted some of the emails the orphanage sent her. And they were like really impressed by her. Now, Bob did confirm that she did not solve the mystery. That's when he told me, he's like, well, don't compare yourself to other people. She was a spectacular lady, but so are you, and you're very aesthetic. Thanks, Bob. But I was reading, I don't know if you meant just like, he probably just meant like I do my makeup and hair. But I was reading through her correspondence, and she was really adept at identifying locations pointed out in the puzzle. Like she'd be like, this is Boston. This is this exact spot. If you stood at this exact street corner in Boston and took a picture, it'd be this. And that was the number one thing she was good at. So much so that the orphanage even mentioned it in an email that she was particularly adept at the geographical stuff. And apparently she became so important to the Mayday Mystery that Brian Hance went to meet her in person.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And Bob told me that her husband thought that they were notes of a serial killer and wouldn't let Brian hang out at the house. So they had to like meet.
Yikes.
Yeah. William, do you still have the Repub girl emails? Did I send them to you? I would say I'm see if I can pull them up soon, but the actual emails that they sent her were, one of them said something of basically they were telling her she needed to help Brian because she had it figured out and Brian didn't. And at one point, one of the emails, they say something like, they said, there's going to be a meeting in the plenary hall, but if Brian showed up right now, it would look to him as if it was totally empty, even though there would be a meeting of all of us. Yeah, isn't that wild? He was
what
like,
exactly did she figure out? Like,
she didn't seem to figure out much. She just knew about the geographical locations. And the other thing that ties to the fact that of Bob's kind of age and his generation, the Woodstock-like activities, and the music, because they make mentions to like Hotel California. She was really adept at figuring out references to those kind of like old rock and roll songs and locations. Maybe there's something more important about the geography than I realized, because there are a lot of geographical like things in the Mayday Mystery, but I never thought that they were that important. I mean, I don't know. That was mainly it. She was good at it, but she mainly just knew like what the pictures were from, like what location. But this was what I was saying is going to be, people are going to be like, oh, that's weird. Do you remember the guy that Bob called a madman?
yes.
Okay. So I made a TikTok about this guy playing some of his voice recordings. There was a guy who got way too involved in the Mayday Mystery. And not like the rest of us were way too involved. Like he was, I'm trying to like not do too much identifiable because it actually scares me. I was a real idiot about this when I started, and I still probably should stop talking about it at some point, but he was trying to talk to everybody. I was like, you can talk to me. And he sent me like 100 voice notes at once, like 100. And like my husband could tell you, because he to the audience, not to you, William. Yeah. William could tell you he listened to them all with me again the other night. And the guy he's just ranting. Oh, he's really cracked the case. He's figured out the Mayday Mystery. He's gone all the way to Tucson to enroll at the University of Arizona. He had nowhere to live in Tucson, but he was going to like be a lawyer like Bob and enroll at the, yeah. And he was enrolling at the University of Arizona strictly to read Bob's dissertation. That was the whole reason he was going to be a student there. It was scary. And once I actually started listening to them, I realized I was like, oh, he's stalking Bob. Like, because he said something about, oh, I even sat next to him once at an airplane and I blocked him. I was like, this guy is, Yeah.
Too much.
I have realized through with Bob's help, Bob set my mind at ease. He said, "Relax, dear girl." I have realized that this guy is now in jail, or he's still in jail. So I'm a little less afraid about talking about it. But here's the thing. I think Bob was saying while he was unhinged, he was correct about a lot of things.
Mm.
So one of the things that he said that was scary, but maybe accurate, like you hate to listen to somebody like that. This guy got arrested because he showed up at Bob's house, smashed out a window, and started waving garbage that he had broken into his dumpster and gotten garbage and was waving it. And I know who you are in the window.
Have mercy.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel that it's maybe not a good thing to like listen to his advice, but then on the other hand, I'm pretty sure Bob told me like I Bob's very cryptic, but I think he was telling me like, well, he might be a madman, but he might not be wrong about everything. And one of the things he said that was both scary but telling was because he said it with such certainty because he's been stalking Bob for such a long time. He said all this stuff about how the orphanage was a group of people who met in during Woodstock. Like they met at Woodstock, partook in the activities that one might partake in at Woodstock, and that they had all these revelations about the end times and like all this stuff. And that kind of makes sense to me because Bob told me he did. This is kind of a new thing too. He outright said that the orphanage is a separate entity to the Freemasons. Now,
well, you said something about some of the voicemails being from women. What I understand, Freemason is a men's only club, so that would automatically set them apart if there's women members.
right. Yeah. And when I was talking about that on TikTok, oh boy, I upset the boys club, man. I did. They were like, I just want to make it very clear that you could not be a Freemason. Like I had some, and I hate to say it because I have so many incredibly nice people on TikTok that I adore. Like people who follow me and talk to me are so kind. Shout out to baby Lulu specifically, and because I feel like she will definitely watch this because she is the most supportive, kindest person in my comments every day. So if you watch this baby Lulu, just know when people are being off the rails, I'm always like, oh, baby Lulu's so nice.
We
Yeah, we stand baby Lulu. This Coke's for you. No, but no, I had a lot of very upset guys telling me like Freemasonry is not for women. And I think, like, to be honest, I'm not an expert in Freemasonry. I'll put it like this. Since this is our first episode, maybe we should like talk about who we are a little bit because we're just kind of talking.
Yeah.
So how would you describe yourself and our relationship?
I don't know. Alabama. I work
Me
Alabama
too.
description. Alabama. Alabama. I work in a factory. I build car engines.
She's tough.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Um,
Tough lady.
we've been friends for like I said earlier, 10 years. We like to go get tattooed together pre-pandemic.
Yep.
Like to get tattooed, like to talk about movies, like to watch TV.
We
I
have
say,
matching
oh,
ones.
yeah.
Where is that? Oh, we
Oh,
have
you're
two
way up. Yeah.
Yep, we have
Oh,
two matching. We have one that's a ghost story. This is a
Yep.
ghost reading books, and we have an
And then
Are You Afraid of the Dark?
our Midnight Society one.
And that. Oh, go ahead.
That's like the beginning of like all this was like the Midnight Society and Are You Afraid of the Dark? That's like way long time ago.
Back in the day, yeah, I used to send Elena a text that said, "I'm calling a meeting of the Midnight Society," when we were young and unattached to anything.
I love when I get those in my Facebook memories. It's so like sweet because now it's super old. It's like 9 years ago, Rachel was calling a meeting of the Midnight Society.
I just miss my number one pre-colitis life. Colitis makes it to where I can't like have wine and pizza with you anymore. And also like the carefree, like we were so young, so I could just text that to Elena and she would come over and watch Are You Afraid of the Dark, which I had burned onto DVD. So it was like, it was a different time and it was
Right.
great and I miss it. I would say too, I think that what makes me and Elena interesting friends is that Elena is the most positive person. Number one, she's a lot tougher than me. We are literally the epitome of different, like just polar opposites. Like Elena is the most positive person I have ever met. She's always got a smile. She's always happy. Um, she's always like there for with a kind word. And I don't know why she likes me. Because I'm very serious and like, oh gosh, I've got anxiety and this is freaking me out. And like, we're very different. We even have very different jobs. Elena's got this really tough boss babe, like we can do it job. And I have
Right.
like, before pre-pandemic, I taught art and history, and most of that involves banging my head and grading papers, So yeah, but I mean, I think that's like we're like those people that we bring the different things to the relationship, and so it works really well.
It does work really well. It's like you can't really have one without the other. Like it just makes sense, I guess.
Peanut butter and jelly.
Right. Mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese. No, yeah, definitely. And also, okay, so I'm gonna get back on the Mayday Mystery, but I also want to say this is all over the map. This is our very first go at this. Me and Elena both like the kind of things like H3, where it's like, yeah, love H3, love frenemies. We're like that kind of stuff that's like, hang out with us, have
Right.
fries with us. We're just going to talk about weird stuff. So we might be all over the map. We're not, I love channels like Nexpo too, but this is not exactly that. It's not going to be a straight A to Z conversation.
Like, right.
It's going to be, wow, I stumbled across this weird thing. Now I'm still going to be on TikTok. So if you guys want that, I do stories more like that on TikTok. This is more of a conversational thing. So I just wanted to kind of explain that. And again, not that like it's not that there'll never be crimes involved or true crime involved, but it's focusing on the mystery aspect of like this weird thing popped up on Reddit, what is it? Like that kind of mystery.
I feel like it's so not bizarre, but it's so interesting to see how big true crime has gotten. Like in just the past year or two, that's what everybody likes. I hear people, talking at work or just through like scrolling through different YouTube channels, people that you would never even really think about doing true crime videos or liking true crime are getting in on that market. Like I've been following someone on YouTube for a long time that does like makeup reviews. And then all of a sudden within like the past few months, now she has a whole separate like playlist or like segment where she does true crime and makeup now and will tell a true crime story while doing her makeup. And I'm like, where is this even coming from? You've been like a dedicated makeup channel forever. But it's not just like one person. It's like a bunch of people are getting in on it, which is great because I like hearing them. But I'm like,
I always like it.
wow. I was like, wow, the market is like completely saturated. And eventually people are just going to wind up talking about the same stuff because you're going to
well, okay. So that's an important point too, because, I've been doing TikToks and sometimes I take recommendations, and I don't mind to. And sometimes I get really cool ones. It's like, I love that. And I even said like, email me stories, but a lot of times people want to hear the same stories. Then they're like the big stories. Well, I did Kurt Cobain and people who were like, war, like that was the worst.
Polarizing story. I think people have such strong opinions about it.
Well, and people didn't seem to understand that it was like, people asked, I did an overview of just the conspiracy theory, they may, I think because it's such a quick format, such a that 60-second, they'll get one part of a 10-part series, which is why I thought it might be more fun to switch to YouTube at least somewhat, because they'll get that one part on their For You page, and the snap judgments they make are just like, somebody said to me today, this chick seems like the type of person to think the Grand Canyon was put there by aliens. I was like, nope, I'm not. Like,
Wow.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not QAnon. I'm not any of those. I get people who think that too. I literally just like reading about mysteries. I always try to say, like, this might not be this. Like with Mayday, it could very well be that Robert, I don't think so anymore, but it could very well be that Robert is a brilliant and maybe he's a little bored person who wants to like get people talking about his puzzle.
Yeah,
it could be, but it's a real thing that exists. It's not something I'm making up. I think that's the thing. People think you're just making things up, but it's a real thing that exists.
They certainly didn't make up the Kurt Cobain conspiracy. Like, there's so much information out there about that, and it's not. Right. I feel like the facts you're presenting are not unpopular opinions. Like, they are, like, to some, but I feel like there's a lot of people that do believe there was some kind of,
something
foul
off.
play. Yeah, something off. Well, like, who knows to what extent, but I feel like a lot of people believe that there's something not quite right with the way things went down.
Well, I also think, like I kept trying to explain, like, this is just presenting the theory. And also, I didn't want people to think, I had a lot of people saying, well, this really stigmatizes the fact that some people just do suffer and decide to end things. So no, absolutely not. I know that it's a horrible, real tragedy, mental illness. So anyway, we're off the rails a little, but okay. So let's get back to Mayday, because I feel like people will be like, what are you even doing here? What are you doing in this? It's not really a podcast. You're eating. You didn't stick to the story. It's fine. So back to Mayday. Yeah, there's a lot of rebellion. There's a lot of anti-police sentiment, which kind of goes with that 60s Woodstock, stick it to the man. And Bob did say, yes, they are a separate entity to Freemasons. But, and let me try to say this correctly, because people also came for me about this. One day I searched Bob's name for something I was researching. He knows I research him. I'm not like the guy that showed up with the trash. Bob knows. Bob knows that I like look into like all this stuff. Not only does Bob know, Bob encourages it. So I was Googling something about Mayday and Bob, and the first result for his name is a Baron Robert Hungerford, who actually fought in the War of the Roses. And that was one of the craziest. I was like, And I remember, because William, my husband, for those of you who don't know, I remember my husband was playing some video game. He had the big headphones on, and I came up and I like held the phone and I pointed, and he went, and he doesn't even care about Mayday for real. Nobody I know really does. And he was like, and then I looked into it further, and the Baron Robert Hungerford fought for the Lancastrian side. Now, Lancastrian just means anybody from Lancaster. It's pretty broad. I'm not saying it's not a tenuous connection, but the Lancastrian were some of the very first Freemasons, if you go by the modern definition of Freemasonry that Encyclopedia Britannica uses. So people were saying, oh, you mean the split in, whatever. Yes, I don't mean the stonemason builders since the beginning of time. I mean the official modern definition, where they actually had their first lodges. One of the first lodges to break ground. I have a newspaper, and it specifically mentions Lancastrian, being there and it being like a big deal. And so I emailed Bob and I said, Bob, are you any relation to the Baron Robert Hungerford? And he said, direct patrilineal. So what I've started realizing when we're talking about like, oh, it can't be solved, maybe it's not supposed to be solved, I have shifted a little, because I've noticed if you ask a direct question and you're correct, Bob will give you a direct answer. If you're incorrect, he'll either say something kind and encouraging, or he'll make an elusive joke, which are always a good time. I asked him if he would be interviewed, and he said, I would, but I'm ugly and my mother dresses me funny. So that's the kind of that's the kind of answer he'll usually give.
No.
Yeah, it's basically, yeah, it's a nice no, a funny slippery no. So yeah, he will give direct answers. Like I said to him, I said, okay. So then I asked specifically, I don't want to lose my train of thought. I asked specifically about this thing with the War of the Roses, and like, I was like, does this have anything to do with the Scottish Rite Cathedral that's in Tucson? Apparently there's something distinctive about this cathedral. That's from that guy that was stalking him. And I said, is there any truth to that? Because that guy's a madman. And he pretty much said, yeah, there's some truth to the fact that this is a unique cathedral. I think there's something about it hosting multiple kinds of rites, but I'm not a Freemason and I don't understand it super deep. But he said, yes, that it is unique. And he said, let me think if I can remember. He said, well, I will say that my office of 30 years was just a stone's throw from the Scottish Rites Cathedral, and that there's talk about town that an underground tunnel connected that office to that office to the Scottish Rites Cathedral. And I was like, so they're Masons. But then, of course, recently he said it's a separate entity. He confirmed that too. But they're connected to the Masons. They're having some kind of meeting at the Scottish Rite Cathedral coming up. And if you look on my TikTok, there's an orphanage member. Well, maybe I shouldn't directly point to him, but there is an orphanage member on my TikTok who tags me and things. He talks like them. At first, I had been so attacked that day in the comments for misspelling Tucson and all kinds of little stuff. At first, I kind of lashed out at him and I felt bad because I didn't recognize it as the like cryptic orphanage talk. I thought he was being hateful to me. He said something like, do you not pay attention? I said, why do you have to make it so condescending?
Right.
And he was like, I'm not. I'm saying the door is open. Yeah, I know. I got a little bit of chills repeating that. He said, I'm saying the door is open. All you have to do is walk inside. And I said, I thought I'm not even allowed to be a Mason. Like I was so confused that day. I was like, I'm not even allowed to be a Mason. I'm a lady. They've all told me all day. All these dudes are like, you can't be one. Why do you care? And he said, not saying it's specifically Masonry. So
here's a question I have too. Do you think that Robert Hungerford is even his real name? And it's maybe a pseudonym or an alias
based on
that Baron, to provide like another link or like another like trail to follow.
Well, I hate to keep quoting this guy who's a literal stalker. I feel a little guilty to keep doing it. I really do, because just to be very serious for a minute, I wouldn't want anything bad to happen to Bob. I actually love Bob. Like,
right, I know. So I even hate to suggest that that's not his real name, but that's the fact that him and the Baron have like that exact name is like a little unusual.
Well, he said it's a direct line, right? But I don't think he would not be, just so you know. I have called Bob all kinds of creepy on the internet for years. Well, I mean, just to keep it real, I used to kind of think he might be. I didn't know him.
Yeah.
And he has never taken a bit of offense. He would not be offended at all by that. I'm saying I feel a little bad to quote this guy that was stalking him, like he had some info, but then Bob himself kind of was like, yeah. And I guess if you stalk somebody for like 20 years, maybe you get to choose.
Right.
So, yeah, I think he had figured out a thing here or there, and because he mentioned the Scottish Rite Cathedral, he mentioned the Baron Robert Hungerford, he mentioned all that stuff. And this is why I was thinking of him though, because you said, is it an alias, right?
Right.
But one of the things this guy was super obsessed with, and just so you know, and just so all of you know out there, this guy was banned from all the like fan groups for the Mayday Mystery, like because he was harassing everybody. But one of the things he was really obsessed with and he was harassing people about was, I know that Robert is the same Robert Truman Hungerford that's related to this Baron, and I know that the Hungerford Family Foundation, that's his family. I know it. And so me and William were listening to these messages again because he was right about so many things. He did end up being right about a lot of that stuff. So we were re-listening to him. And William looked up the Hungerford Family Foundation, and it's nothing. That I think was just, I mean, the reason I bring it up is because I think that might be Bob's real name, and I think he might be connected to this. But William said it was super similar to one he has. You know, his family's Scottish. You know, William's Scottish on his father's side. So he looked into it, and he was like, my family has something like this. Like our family clan from Scotland has a website kind of like this. I don't think it was anything. I mean, it had some like history about the family. I think that they're like a prominent family. But of course, me, because I want adventure in the great wide somewhere. I like to think that Bob was raised like you know, the end of the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah.
Where they're like, he's like, but you, Sophie, you were raised with ciphers as toys and all that stuff.
Oh, that's him as a little kid.
Yes, and I am Robert Langdon in this scenario.
Nope.
But hopefully with better hair than what Tom Hanks was sporting. But you know, I kind of think, I have no proof of that, and obviously that's just me being kind of fantastical, but I like to picture that he's like this descendant through this line of these barons, and then at the end, you know, I find out that he was raised with all these little intricate clues, and it's like his family lineage. That's what although in his dissertation he does mention that like his brother-in-law was a clinical psychiatrist, and common themes in the MDM is like brain like it'll be like a picture of a brain with the Fibonacci sequence, the golden mean over it. It'll be something like that. Or so it's like psychology, history, but the biggest one every time is Protestant Christianity. And this is the part that I think kind of makes people's eyes glaze over, but I'm going to explain it a little for the people who would care, just a little. One of the big things that they said to Repub Girl, because I think they thought she would really crack it. There were all kinds of emails directly from the orphanage to her that were praising her. I want to tell y'all something. I'm going to make myself bigger again for a minute. I have received, like, in all this time, like 2 emails from the orphanage. I usually get emails from Bob, and we're just kind of like, we banter. When the orphanage emails me, it's to correct me.
Dang.
It's not to praise me like they did this girl, Repub Girl. That was her screen name. They were like, oh, excellent work. You need to help the others. They don't get it. When the orphanage emails me, they're like, please inform RG that she is incorrect about her suspicion regarding, because I'm just fantastical, and I, you know, she was approaching each piece of the puzzle. But the advice, I'm going to give this advice to anybody who wants to solve the puzzle themselves. Okay. This is what they told her to do. She had identified all these different bits of Bible scripture, and they told her to lay out the scripture in the only correct way, the Protestant way. They told her that if she took each scripture and she laid it out and she arranged each one in the order they appeared in the puzzle, if she did that, going according to the Protestant Bible, that she would have great enlightenment. Enlightening is not the word. That she would have great enlightenment if she laid them out that way. Now, y'all, I think this is interesting. I will literally lay there and read a lot of the like her correspondence and all, and I talk to Bob. I ain't got the time or the care to sit there and these ads go back to the 70s. It is now, and she was doing this like 10, 15 years ago. It is now 2021. And there are still ads.
Yeah, that's a good point to make too, that these ads are still coming out.
They're not, it ain't gonna stop. And that's partly, that was what Brian said, why he didn't think that this could be the work of just one person, because he can't even identify all of them. He can't. Sorry, guys. Some people are going to be like, what are you doing that for? Brian couldn't even identify all of the ads. And he was like, they go back so freaking like in the past that I just don't see one person being able to do this. Of course, in before I get accused of being, which I have a few, I'd say there's probably been 3 people on TikTok that were like, and now you're working for them. Spreading the message. And I'm like, they don't even want me. They talk to me to tell me to quit. They talk to me to scold me. Although Bob always makes me feel good. He always gives me a nice word. He really does. He's always encouraging. And actually the orphanage guy I have, the orphanage member I have on TikTok, he said something that was, I thought, really flattering. He said something like, somebody said, why are they talking to you? Like what? And he said something that was very similar to he talked a lot like a child. Maybe he is. Maybe it's the same person. He said they're always looking for people who are interested in solving life's greatest questions. Intelligent people are always needed. Curious people. That's like the thing.
I was gonna say, well, with your following and stuff, they certainly can't be like mad that you're putting their name out there.
Well, no, I think they want it out there. I really genuinely think that the orphanage wants the message to spread, because they gatekeep it so closely that if they don't want you in it, you're just not going to be in it. Right. But they want their message. I mean, you got to think about it. Look, let's come down to earth a little. We're talking about something really creepy, but let's like really scale it down to the like where it belongs in the world. It's an ad in a college newspaper called the Arizona Daily Wildcat. So it's not exactly, I mean, I get people, oh my goodness, I had people suggesting some horrible stuff, and that kind of upset me. Y'all know the kind of stuff QAnon believes. I try not to take like hard political positions and things online, because it's not what I'm doing. I'm not a political commentator, you know what I mean? But we are not QAnon people, okay? Right. We don't think that the orphanage is eating babies. Just want to like really make that clear. And I mean, if people are mad at me for saying it, oh well, I'm not a QAnon kind of person. So yeah, I don't think they're eating babies, or like I don't even think they're harmful, because listen, if they were, again, Brian wouldn't still be with us, because Brian uncovered it all. Right. Although I do wonder, like, okay, tinfoil hat, trying to be very self-aware that this is just spitballing, okay? But I did think it was kind of surprising. Bob has mentioned multiple times that the commenter Repub girl, that she's now friends with Brian. Oh, they became friends. Oh, and I hope he's not mad at me. Oh well, he won't be. He'll be fine. Sorry, Bob. Well, peace and love to you, Bob. Bob did remove that email about how the husband thought that Brian was a serial killer, but I'm not naming any of the people. This is just her username. Right. Brian even said, don't say her name. I would never do that. Brian and Bob are different, because this puzzle is famous and their names are all over the internet. Right. I wouldn't even name the usernames of the orphanage people. All I can tell you, if you go to Facebook, you'll see a ton of them. All you have to do is, if they talk funny in the Mayday Mystery fans group, and you click their profile and they've got a bunch of masonry stuff and no identifying features, it's an orphanage member. But yeah, it is kind of weird. Like when I started talking to him, how interconnected a lot of this stuff was. Like I saw again, tinfoil hat, but like Brian and Bob have stayed friends for years, which is hard not to like Bob. He became friends with the commenter Repub girl enough to where he went to meet her. I think because he realized she was the closest somebody ever came to cracking the mystery. And Bob said he's not aware if a fan's ever solved it. So it's not like I think we've all always assumed that there's a few people that have and that they became members. But Bob pretty much said like, no, that ain't the case. Like he doesn't know of anyone who has, but he thinks it's possible. Um but Brian obviously thought she was interesting enough to like go to another state, I think. I'm pretty sure to meet her. Um and then that weird Reddit thread I saw, the La Frontera Norte thing. That was my giant cat was moving my setup. The La Frontera Norte thing. It seems like they said this is not substantiated. This was just something I read on Reddit. This person could have been just pulling stuff, but they said that La Frontera Norte thing was a umbrella company that Bob and Brian now work for or something, and that they build the local Masonic temples. It was weird. If you look up Mayday Mystery on Reddit, like Google those keywords, you can probably find this thread, but it was a lot of like, it kind of starts to feel like these people know each other better than they
let on.
Yeah, that there's some like friendship. Well, and Bob said something about like if you ever get to meet us and like we ever had a chance to get together, I'd do it. I don't know what's good for me. I'm not, I would do it. I would love to like have a coffee. Well, pretend to have a coffee because I can't have coffee, but I'd love to have a pretend coffee with Bob. I think it'd be fascinating. Road trip after the pandemic.
Yep.
Road trip 2022. So I talked a lot. And I don't want to overwhelm people with our first video. So I'm going to shut up for a minute and eat chicken nuggets. And I'm going to ask you your overall feelings and takeaways from all of that stuff. Like, what is your overall final thought, I guess?
All right. Overall, I definitely feel like it's not just Bob.
Same.
Like doing post. I feel like the point of it is to get you interested and get you thinking about ideas and messages and stuff. I really don't even know. I'm kind of the mindset that there is nothing to be solved. Like there is no grand like answer, like a math problem. I feel like what is that, the cheesy, it's not the destination, it's the journey type of situation where it's to get you interested and get you hooked to go down this rabbit hole of information. And at the end of the rabbit hole is basically the orphanage and their ideals and stuff. And if
that was massive noise.
if you're willing to go down this hole and put the work in, then they'll let you in. Like the gift is like, or the answer at the end is acceptance into their group, not like a full-blown
in
answer.
The end, the prize is the friends we made along the way, pretty much.
That's exactly like what I feel like. I definitely think I definitely do think there is a Freemason connection, but not.
But what is it? That drives me nuts too. How are you not just Freemasons? How are you the orphanage, but you have all these Freemason connections? It makes no sense to me. Yeah. Also, though, I said this to Bob in one of the very last emails I sent him. I try not to be like put on my professor hat because I feel like people instantly fall asleep. But in art history, there's a saying, and it's that the message is the means, right? And what that means, and so it's kind of like what you're talking about. So what that means is like somebody like Jackson Pollock is super misunderstood because the message is the means, meaning the way that Jackson Pollock creates a piece is the whole point. That's the message. People are like, I don't understand it. It's action. What did he say? What Jackson Pollock said, it's a motion arrested in space, I believe. Basically, he's freezing movement forever. the movements he
Yeah.
makes to create it is the message. The message is the means. So I said to Bob, I said, when I was reading the thing about Repub Girl and ordering everything, I really thought that, like, okay, this is kind of like what we say in our history. Protestantism is both the message and the means. So it's the delivery tool, but it's also the ultimate point. I just can't help but think or be reminded whenever I see Bob say something like, oh, the prize is greater. Because he comments, if y'all are on TikTok, Bob will eventually talk to you if you try. He not gonna talk to everybody, but once in a while, he said something to my mom. She was super stoked because she thinks it's really interesting. He gave her a compliment. She was like, Bob gave me a compliment. I was like, he's there. He's nice. I see him say to people, like, it's realer than you can imagine. The prize is greater than you can imagine. And to me, that just really is like, it reminds me a lot of just religious talk.
The
Like
prize.
the prize, your eternal prize, your, it's realer than you can imagine. It's just kind of, to me, very like standard things that people say about their own religion, so I don't know. So that's kind of the whole thing, right? Have I missed anything really key?
No, I don't think so.
I was gonna say,
points.
I had been waiting and waiting for the Repub Girl correspondence, and I might just put it on TikTok in the green screen background. With this, I really would like to keep it fun. So I'm just gonna kind of like reiterate that again. This is our first test run of this. So if we were a little all over the map, sorry. We'll try to do better. I don't have hardly any storage space on a single device I have. Because I've been doing so much. I do graphic design and stuff. I have like a million jobs, and that's one of them. I do graphic design. So everything is like, the storage is filled up, and we don't have the big microphones yet, so we don't want to put these on a platform yet. But if you guys like this, if you guys want it, we will then do that. And next time we're going to talk about, do you remember?
Oh, some of the hotel with the Z.
Hotel Zaza.
There you go. Oh man, I'm so excited.
I know. And you know what? I was gonna say, I don't want to like overly edit this either. Like, I don't even know how much I might not edit it at all. It really depends. But then I am kind of like, oh, I really want to put pictures of the hotel.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
It would in the next one.
Something to say before we get off. You said that she had like made connections to all these geographical points, Repub Girl. There's got to be some link in those like locations, like something that connects them all. And if we knew the locations that she found out, it might be a way to figure something else out, like some kind of event that happened at all these, or some kind of like meeting place, or some type of church at all these. Like, there's got to be some type of link in these locations that we don't know about, or because we don't know the locations.
Well, I do know some of them. One of them's old burial ground, and there's a ton of like Protestant figures buried there, like historical Protestant figures. So it's always stuff like that. And I told Bob, I said, Bob, it's always Protestantism or Masonry.
Yeah.
And he even commented on TikTok. He said, the undersigned has at no point said that I am a Mason. So I feel like he like leads you one way, and then he's like, oh, but then there's this. And it kind of always goes back to me to that dissertation of like, is it just enough information to where you consistently care and ask questions, or am I a dummy and I'm just missing, the ultimate thing? So I might look. I think
more towards the first. I think they give you just enough little clues to keep you, guessing and keep you going, and then the ultimate gift or revelation is the message, not like some big
the friends we made along the way. The orphanage are the friends we made along the way. Well, and also I wonder if the geographical locations, because this seems to be really, you gotta think, she was commenting on Brian's website all those years ago. Yep. And Bob still wants me to look up her again. And then they were sending her emails like all the time praising her. So obviously they're important. They could be sites of famous Freemason temples or lodges, or because the Scottish Rite Cathedral is apparently in Tucson, it's apparently very significant. And I'll tell you this, I did one time, this is something I didn't mention. The ads often have meeting, like their next meeting is encoded with like coordinates. Why can't I think of the name? Unit coordinates, like long string of numbers. I can't think of what it's called. Where it's a long string of numbers, you put them into a map, and then you're,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so they often have those in them. I don't know why. It's just a brain fart.
It's coordinates.
Is it just coordinates?
That's what I think.
Like where it's like north and south, and it's all the numbers.
Yeah.
Remember when we said that we were both Alabama?
I am Alabama.
This is the Alabama. This is our link. No, Elena is very smart, and I'm okay. No, there's like anyway, it doesn't matter. They will put clues as to where their next meeting place is going to be. And I did that one time because I'm like, I want to know who they are and what they want, but I'm real lazy about like doing, because guys, it's like the Da Vinci Code threw up. There's a million things on everyone. And it's like literally like you have to like translate a language, find a location. It's so much stuff. But one time I did want to know where one of the meeting places was because I just felt like it. And I did figure it out. One of the numbers in there, if you put it into Google, took you to this very specific Scottish barrel whiskey. Well, there are two connections there. There's the Scottish Rites Cathedral, and then right next door, which I didn't know this at the time because I just learned about this cathedral like this week and all that. But and this was like last year. But right next door to the Scottish Rites Cathedral is a bar called the Owl Club, which serves like specialty Scottish barrel-aged whiskeys and stuff. And there were other links too. Yeah. And I sent it to Bob and I was like, you guys meeting at the Owl Club? Did I get it? And he did say something like very impressive young lady or something, and that was it. So you can figure out where their meetings are. But according to that email, that gave me shivers. I literally was laying in my bed, and when the person was like, Brian isn't ready, if he showed up, we could be at a meeting in full swing. Everybody could be there having the ideas, and it would be like he was in a room alone, even if we were all there, because he's not ready. I was like, what does that mean?
He's been doing this for like 30 years.
I know. Well, this was quite a long time ago because it was the Repub girl stuff. But like, what does that mean? Okay. We're both very level-headed people. I don't genuinely believe what I'm about to say. What a disclaimer.
Right.
But there was this whole weird thing. One of the voicemails that I played on TikTok, it was an orphanage member called Brian Hance. And one of the things that people picked up on and were like, what? Was they said at this junction of time and space. And like basically like, we are calling you at this time at this junction of time and space. And there were some people having just wild theories that are, of course, probably not true. Almost definitely not true. But basically, like, what if they don't exist in our realm? And this is like, okay, I'm doing the like thing where everybody who watches BuzzFeed Unsolved thinks it's aliens right now. But let's just go with this wild, totally not true, definitely not real thing. But it is kind of like if you combine this junction of time and space thing with Brian could show up there, and it would, even though everyone was there, it would. I know.
Oh, I just got goosebumps.
And even if everyone was there, it would be like he was totally alone. He couldn't see him. That's crazy. And then let me take it one step further. We're already there. We're already going. Let's just go. Then combine it with the fact that what if Bob is the Baron Robert?
My whole body is
because they don't exist in this juncture of time and space.
Oh, shut. I love it. Right?
I honest to God think that's probably where we're gonna leave it, because that's what else can you say
right after that?
that's the answer. Okay,
I love it.
Oh gosh.
That's your
don't.
prize right there. Interdimensional travel is the prize.
Well, somebody sent me something. Um, and look, you know what? Where I am paranoid now, though, and I hate it about myself because I was never this person. Sometimes now they've talked to me for so many years. Sometimes I get something and I'm like, is this just a regular person who likes my videos, or is this an orphanage member? And I don't think they were, but like, what did they call themselves? Mr. Enigmatic. And that sounds exactly like an orphanage member.
Yep.
But I don't think they were. I think it was just somebody who liked the TikToks. But they said, what if they exist outside of time and space? They were the ones who brought that up first. And they were like, look up liminal spaces. And I haven't yet, y'all. Because people tell me to look something up every 2 minutes now. It's gotten to that point where I try to interact with everybody so much, but people tell me like, oh, look into this story, cover this story, like every 2 minutes. So I haven't had time, but I'm gonna look into that liminal spaces. Hopefully we get to the point where we have a real podcast and maybe we can be together after we get vaccinated and do this. And I'm gonna make William will be like our he'll be like our Dan and Ian from H3.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, hey, look this up, because I can't, I'm filming on my phone. But I would look at, well, okay, wait. Last thing, and then we're gonna call it. But I do want to see, what are liminal spaces. If it's something real complicated, I'll say, but maybe there's like a short definition. But they said maybe they exist in liminal space popped right up. It's an aesthetic that refers to the feeling of being in a traditional space that has been abandoned. A mall at 4 a.m. or a school hallway in summer, for example. This makes it feel frozen, and I don't think that's what they meant. In anthropology, liminality is the quality of ambiguity or disorientation that occurs in the middle of a stage of a rite of passage. When precipitants, you know what I'm trying to say,
Yeah.
no longer hold their pre-ritual status and have not yet begun the transition to the status they will hold when the rite's complete. I don't know what that means. I consider myself a smart person, but I don't know exactly how that relates to
other.
I mean, because that's somebody who feels like they're existing out of space, but they're really not. They're just at a weird transitional part in their life, right? That's what I got from that. All right. Anyway, the orphanage, time travelers confirmed.
Yep.
And that's the ending. And next time we're going to be talking about the Hotel Zaza, which I'm excited because I love Mayday, but I have reiterated it and like talked about it for so long now that I'm excited I'm going to read about it this week, the Hotel Zaza, and we'll have food and hangout session just talking about it. Like maybe you could read about it, I'll read about it. And that way too, it won't be just so much me like talking your ear off. If we both read about the Hotel Zaza thing, then we can come at it with our opinions and perspectives, and it won't just be me going on and on.
Oh, you're fine.
Well, thanks for doing this with me.
Yes, it was so much fun. I love it.
Okay, well, I'm so excited to do this. Elena has such a great voice for it. I'm so excited she was doing it with me, especially like she's just spooky friend for life. So
feels good to be back doing something. I've missed YouTube. Like I've missed doing our videos and stuff like that.
I know. Well, that was always our thing, and we'd watch Beyond Belief, which is the most bestest show, unintentionally funny, perfect show, and then we would film YouTube videos and things like that. And we didn't have, like I said, we didn't have a ton of subscribers, so it is weird to have a lot of subscribers on TikTok. I don't know how many people we'll have on here, but every single one of you that subscribes, we're excited. This has been Mayday. Mayday with an exclamation point. We're always here on YouTube. Please, if you liked this, ring the bell and subscribe,
Thumbs up, comment, give us some suggestions.
Yes. Be nice to each other in the comments.
Please.
I don't know what to expect. What to expect out of YouTube, because TikTok, the pattern is the video goes up, people are like, oh, this is weird and interesting and cool, and it stays that way until a video gets to about, I would say the comments start going wonky around 70,000 views. And people find something. Do you know there was a whole conspiracy that I didn't have a migraine on my TikTok?
Yes.
I briefly, did you watch any of them today?
Yeah, I've watched them today.
Multiple people, because I very briefly said, Elena knows I'm ill.
Right.
I very briefly said, oh, I've been stuck in bed with a migraine. It was just to add a little bit of personality. That's the only reason I shared it. But it was true. I've been sick for 3 years. And people will find, if there's nothing in your video to be upset about 80,000 views. So I'm not sure what to expect from YouTube, but hopefully this is just a fun place where we kick around theories. And yeah, this has been Mayday. Subscribe, and we will see you guys next week or soon if we can swing it next week. Bye, guys.
Yes. Bye.